Welcome to the San Clemente Podcast, the only local podcast in the best beach town in the world. We're here to bring you weekly episodes highlighting everything from sports, culture, entertainment, politics, and everything else this beach town has to offer.
Welcome back to the San Clemente Podcast, your local podcast. My co-host and I, Brian De La Puente, are very excited to bring another thrilling episode to you right here in San Clemente, California. Boy, do we have a guest on today. We have a pillar of San Clemente, someone that has grown up in San Clemente, someone that has made a tremendous impact on the lives of many here in our community. And it's someone that Brian and I have been talking about for a long time, and very excited to have the one and only Brad Baker on the podcast. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you both, man. It's a privilege.
Absolutely. So tons of things to talk about today. Yeah. Of course, the thing I think that's on most people's mind is your new role of principal at San Clemente High School.
Yeah. You believe it? It's great. Yeah. I'm super thrilled. I'm excited to get started. Just moved in yesterday into the office and, shook Chris Carter's hand. He did an incredible job the last 9 years. And I'm just honored to, be able to serve there in this coming year. So.
It's so wild for me too, like even looking across the table to be thinking that we're sitting here with the principal of San Clemente High School.
Not in trouble.
And we're not in trouble. My,
not yet.
How the tables have turned.
We'll see how this goes.
Exactly. But seriously, a huge accomplishment. We're going to dive into all of that. Sure. But how awesome for you to be back in your community, leading the way for so many from where you came from.
Right. Yeah, no, this is incredible. I've always dreamt about this. I thought this would be a really neat opportunity to serve my own community that actually shaped me. And now it's here. So, and I'm just thrilled to be here with you guys. I mean, we all go back a long time, our families, our parents. Yep. So yeah, it's amazing. It's been the last month has been incredible. Just the outpour of love from neighbors. I go on walks, people honk their horns and wave, and they're so excited. The outpouring of love has been just overwhelming, but also just affirming, and I'm excited to get to work. There's a lot of kids that need that encouragement and support to be successful, and I'm ready to help lead that effort. So
take us back a little bit. Yep. Tell us about where you were born, where you were raised, and kind of what brought you through the paths of San Clemente.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it really goes, my mom and dad met, when they were very young. They live in North County, but they would come down to San Clemente, Laguna Beach to vacation, and they always wanted to live here. So my dad ended up taking a job at Goodyear in Houston before I was born, and I was born in 1977 in Houston. And then at around fourth grade, my dad ended up buying a house in San Clemente. So this might have been, 83, something like that. So bought a house in San Clemente. I checked into Concordia Elementary School, the most beautiful school, I think, in the world, right? It's
we all went.
Yeah,
yep.
Concordia.
Yep.
Yeah. Sammy the Sea Lion.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a whole nother story.
I honestly joke. I'm like, it's basically a private school, if you think about it, right?
Concordia is amazing. Yeah. Great teachers, great location. I loved my experience in elementary school. Mr. Huey, Mr. Page, Mrs. Gravelin. I can go on. Ms. Bassett.
She's still there.
Miss Bassett, I know. I love
Isn't
it.
that wild?
Oregon Trail. I love
the Oregon Trail.
Oh,
she's still selling those great pencils.
Yep.
That pencil machine's still there.
I wonder if they've gone up in the cost, though, right?
I hope not.
Right?
I'm going to have to go check on that. First order of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's so great. That's where it started for me in the school district was fourth grade there. Miss Puente, I remember fourth grade, sat right next to Chris Sayer, and just made a lot of great friends. We had noon sports. That's where I learned really to make friends, and it was like Trevor Inslee and myself were the two captains all the time, just competing against each other. I think Trevor still gives me the number 2 all the time. I can't get over that hump yet, but. So anyways, I love that. I loved Concordia. Went to Shorecliffs Middle School. As you guys, I was the principal there as well, but went there for 6, 7, 8. So that's when it was, 6, 7, 8th grade. Loved it. Had a great time. Then San Clemente High School came in 1992. It's, signed up for the football team. Being 290 pounds as a freshman, that's kind of what you do, you know? So Coach McElroy, that was his first year, if you remember Coach Mack.
Coach Mack. Legend.
Legend. He was 32 years old. He hired John Hamrow at that same time. That was my freshman year, and he just turned that program around. So the 80s was a little rough for San Clemente Tritons, especially the football team. Then when Coach Mack took over, he just changed it all. So by the time I graduated in 95, that program, Coach Mack had it running on full steam ahead, and I loved it. Absolutely loved my experience at school with my teachers and everything. Although I had success on the football field, academically it was challenging. Back in, I think, fourth grade, I was diagnosed with like an auditory processing, ADHD, all those things. And it was really because I couldn't spell. I learned whole word in Texas. That was kind of a big thing. And when I came out to California, it was phonetics. So I couldn't sound out words. So by the time I got in high school, I started, obviously the computer, Microsoft Word came out, started getting a little better. But I did have a moment where, I basically had a teacher who told me, like, just not college material, and that devastated me, right? Because I wanted to go play college football. And it really, really rocked me.
Well, in a time in your life where you're already vulnerable,
Sure.
right? You're at an age where you're already questioning a lot of things.
Sure.
So to have a teacher not, fully believe in you,
Yeah.
and not only that, like the opposite, tell you that you can't do something.
No, yeah. And and when I think back to it, I don't think it was ill intent. I think it was like trying to protect me.
Yeah.
And what I've learned over the years is like, our job's not to predict kids' futures, right? It's not. It's to project their future, that what they can be. And so that's what I take in from that experience is we're not in the job of predicting, right? Just because we've seen what levels and what we don't know the potential of the kids that are in front of us and what they can do. And, I can say today for all I've accomplished, like that's firsthand. I know that.
Yeah.
So that gave me a lot of fuel. I luckily, my mom raised me to know that I had a purpose, and that it was bigger than what anyone's opinion was. So I just kept that in my heart, and I just worked my tail off. I graduated San Clemente High School, barely, but
Me too,
Yeah.
though. I barely made it through, but
maybe I could change those records. I don't know. No.
exactly.
No, but it was a good life lesson as I realized, like, I wasn't able to get a scholarship based on my academic performance. That was a gut punch, right?
Sure.
And so from there, I signed up at Saddleback, which is a phenomenal school. I recommend that to anybody. It's a great institution. At that same time, again, Word, everything, all the college professors was like, use Microsoft Word. And I was like, I could get the words pretty close. So everything that was in my head, I can now get out. I was on the dean's list every semester at Saddleback. I got straight A's, right?
Do you think that, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
do you think that was because of the gut punch of not getting into one of the big schools and having to go down that path? Were you?
Yeah, I think it was both.
Okay.
I think it was two-pronged. I think one, it was the motivation.
Yeah.
Like I got to get my stuff together, right? Like, and the two was now I had a tool
Sure.
to bridge the gap of dyslexia or ADHD, what have you. So I found a ton of success now academically and then athletically. We won a national championship with Bill Cunity in 1996. Then I ended up transferring to Azusa Pacific University and got a full scholarship. Won a national championship there, which was amazing. Loved my experience there. And then ended up playing in Europe for a little while. And then coming back to San Clemente, I knocked on John Hamro's door because years prior, he promised me if I would get my degree, he would do everything he could to help me get a job. And sure enough, he kept that promise. So I went back to him and said, I graduated college. I would love to work in high schools. And he said, I think I have something for you. So I was a full-time campus supervisor for my first year at San Clemente High School. That was my first employment in CUSD. And then from there, I coached sports. I coached 3 sports, and I went to school at night. So I was just finding my rhythm and, just knocking it out, and ended up being a student teacher there, being a teacher. I was a resident sub. I think I've had about 7, or this might be my 8th position at San Clemente High School. So just I just thank John so much, and the crazy thing is, he'll retire in the next few years, and, I may be the one that's going to lead that ceremony with him. And so
That'll be special.
just means a lot. So just coming full circle. That's
Sure.
what I keep hearing, and exciting times, after that, I became a teacher. I got into, someone tapped me and said, hey, we need some help, with stuff at school. And I said, sure, I'm a helper, be an O lineman, Brian,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
We like to protect and help. Don't like the limelight very much, but ended up doing that, got my administrative credential. I was like, hey, if I can get my bachelor's, why can't I get my master's degree, right? That confidence started coming. Went to Chapman, got my master's degree, and then the world was open to me. I'm like, wait a minute, I could do this. Ended up becoming an assistant principal, activities director at Capo, assistant principal at Marco. Then I had this crazy idea to go to USC and get my doctorate. And so I applied, I got in. I remember the day I started my first class, I sat in front of the building, the Rossier School of Education, and I had that moment of doubt again that I had when I was told I wasn't belonging in college. And I remember vividly me thinking to myself, that's not true. You got this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So heavy, right? So those voices that tell you like, hey, you hit your limit. You're at your limit. And to learn the discipline to say, no, you can do more with hard work, persistence, support. You can do anything you put your mind to. So ended up going to USC and having a best learning experience of my life, getting my doctorate degree, ended up getting a principal position at Shorecliff Middle School for 3 years, which I loved. It's weird walking around being a principal at the school you actually went to, but loved my time there. Then got transferred to Dana Hills. They needed some support there. So last 5 years, I've been at Dana Hills High School and absolutely loved the people there and the community, the teachers. We did so much fantastic work. That's going to continue, so I'm super excited. And then, just last month, our superintendent, who I'm very excited is with us at Capo, called me up and said, "Won't you be the principal at San Clemente High School?" And I said, "Will do." So
that's awesome, man.
That's it. So
that's a great story. You kind of glazed over it, being the football guy that I am. Let's learn a little bit about that NFL Europe. Like, what was that whole? That's rad.
Yeah, that was an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, like so you've come off a national championship at Azusa. What's that road to getting where, like all of that?
Yeah. So once eligibility was done, actually, you had like the Jets and the Lions, coaches coming by and they ran us through workouts. You remember that?
Yep.
But no call, no nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, this is the end of the road maybe for football. But then my buddy, Jeff Buffum, who played at San Clemente High School, and he was a senior when I was a sophomore blocking for him, and then played at Azusa Pacific when we won a national championship. So we had success together.
Yeah.
So he calls me up and goes, "Hey, I'm in Austria, and we need someone to block for me, and to be on our team. Would you be willing to come out?" And I did, and I loved it. I had so much fun to travel. I mean, we were based in Innsbruck, Austria, but we played in Italy, we played in Germany. We got to travel all around. Just a really neat experience.
That's awesome.
The Innsbruck Raiders, that's what it was. So Jeff and I and a few others, another college, Jack Williams, who's now the Downey head football coach. We all went out there as imports and end up having a great time. So.
Was there like a certain balance of imports and like
there's
native? I don't know what you.
Like there was only so many imports that you could have in that league. Yeah, and so our job was, to help teach the game, but also to play the game with them as well.
Were your coaches was there a language barrier?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, was the offense the same offense you ran in college, or
no? It was a little different. I mean, Jeff Buffum had control over some of that, so it was somewhat similar because Jeff brought his system there, but the language was different. I mean, the counts and all that, and everything was German, so I had to learn a little bit of that.
It wasn't hike.
No. It was different. I'm not even going to try it, but. All the terminology, how football is, the common language has to be there.
Well, it has to be second nature.
It has to be second nature. And so that was difficult.
Interesting.
Yeah. Luckily I felt pretty good about it because it was Jeff's system. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then by that time, Amy, my girlfriend at the time, graduated college from Azusa Pacific. And by the time I was done playing, she was ready, to graduate, and we were ready to get married. So it all came full circle.
I love that story. That whole NFL Europe thing was would have been a rad experience. It wasn't going when I was playing. But I like guys that it almost like a developmental league.
Yeah.
Like to go there and to be able to hone in your craft, like tie with organizations. And then a guy I played with, Lance Moore, he went and played over there and had success, and then got his opportunity in New Orleans.
Yeah. Trevor Inslee did that.
Yeah.
So he was allocated by the Colts to go play for the Ryan Fire, I think it was, and just crushed it out there.
Right.
He was like,
So are those feeder programs to the NFL teams, or
that NFL
were.
Europe time was the thing I did was different, a little different, but it was similar. It was kind of during that same time.
Sure.
Though. Yeah.
What an experience. That's rad.
Yeah. It was really, at that age too, to travel and to experience, new cultures.
Sure.
It was great. I mean,
You got a built-in friend group.
Yeah,
Of
absolutely.
Locals that know where to go.
And I'm still friends to a lot of those guys. You know how football is. Once you
Sure.
play with someone, you're friends for life. And so, I have friends. Amy and I ended up going to Switzerland for Jeff's wedding, and we ended up meeting up with a lot of the guys we played with years ago, and just having a great time together. So it's fun to have people all over.
That's
friends.
amazing.
Yeah, it's great. So,
How big of an impact did sports have on your life?
I attribute probably all my leadership skills to my sports experience. Sports teaches you discipline, being early, following, working hard, failure. That failure is okay. That you just keep pushing through.
Yeah.
Resiliency, sportsmanship. I like to use the word interdependency because you have to depend on another person to be successful.
Sure.
There's a lot of sports that, if you run, right, you're on
Individual,
your own. Individual.
Yeah.
But a running back is going to depend on that whole O-line to get yards. And they're going to depend on the defense to keep the score down. The receivers depending on the O-line and the quarterback. And I learned a lot of that. And that comes with building team culture, because with collaboration and interdependency, we share practice. And when we share practice, we grow. We become better. Become better teachers, educators, learners, whatever you want to call it. But when we collaborate truly, we grow. So
Yeah. Do you see building these environments? My kids are still young.
Yeah.
Youth sports right now has been frustrating for me. It's different than when we played.
Yeah.
There's a lot of focus, not playing multiple sports.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to keep my kids doing everything, but also like there's this wild, there's so many lessons you learn in losing.
Yeah.
And parents right now drives me bonkers.
Right.
They're not letting their kids lose.
Right.
They're bending rules and they're doing all this other crap.
Yeah.
Let them lose.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're learning more about themselves, and growing than stunting that growth when they're 8.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you don't win in baseball, right? Give them those lessons. Are you seeing any that, like, I don't even know what you call it, but in like the high school age kids, like, does that change?
It just depends. It's, parents don't want kids. I'm a parent, my son just went off to college, right? And, I don't want him to fail. That's my innate, but I know it's good for him,
Right.
because how he responds to that failure is going to develop who he is
Right.
and his character. But that's a really mature way of thinking, and that takes experience. So I think the parents who are younger and just coming up, they're just going to go to that default, which I have done. And I think about, I check that. Our parents are great. I mean, literally by the time in high school and, of course you run into some here and there, right? And there's always that, because our kids are the most important thing in the world to us. That's it. And so if something's impeding that, or something, their growth or development, like it's your number one. Right. That's all you're going to think about.
Yeah.
I really believe it takes great leaders, good coaches, to work with parents to set that culture, right? And to so they can see the bigger role in it, about the life development, the friendships you're going to make, and, all that.
Yeah. Just try to be the example, I guess. Right. Like,
yeah, that's what you can do.
Yeah. And it's like you said, you want the best for your kids, and you want them to win and feel winning and all that stuff. But like, are you truly feeling the winning if you don't lose? you know, in a certain breath. I don't know.
It comes with maturity and time too. I've actually gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, good, I failed. Now I get to respond, and I can get that one out of the way so I can get to the success.
Correct. You almost enjoy. Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to enjoy the loss.
Right.
Yeah,
It's part of the journey.
it's part of it. Yeah,
It's how you're getting to where you want to go.
yeah, absolutely.
So talk to us about the team that you have around you and how important that's been over the course of your career in building Shorecliff, Dana Hills, and soon to be San Clemente High School.
Well, it starts with my wife, you know, and my immediate family. You know, just the encouragement constantly, my mom's love and care, my sisters, you know, all of them always just believing in me. You know, that's your nucleus, right? You know, without your immediate family, it's hard.
Sure.
You know, so that's number one. You know, after that, it's been my work family, right, in my community, and I just have been blessed to have amazing teachers around me and amazing mentors, like I've already mentioned, like John Hamro and Coach McElroy and Eric Patton and other teachers. It goes on and on and on. I could just name a million people, but that team, whether it be like my administrative team, you know, I always see them as the nucleus as well. If we're healthy, you know, we're focusing on the right things, what's best for kids, what's good for teachers to do what's best for kids. If we're modeling best practices, right, all those types of things, then teachers and those who are serving in the school are going to notice and see that, and that will become the expectation.
Right.
And so, for me, it's hugely important to have the right people in the right seats on the bus, you know?
Yep.
And I've been blessed, like really blessed.
Yep, absolutely. What do you say to the parents that are thinking of not sending their kid to San Clemente High School, that are looking at the education system and now saying, you know what, the hybrid is the way to go? Because you hear a lot of that now.
Yeah. And, you know, I respect people's decisions because it's for various reasons. So, you know, sometimes I don't like to say, you know, learning styles. It's more preferences. There's some students who can do really well by learning in a homeschool environment, and there are some, you know, it's not for everyone. And there's maybe some things they miss out, but that's just to each his own, right?
Sure.
I really respect people's decisions. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of public schools. I've seen personally what it's helped me become and shaped who I am, but also thousands of others. Right. And I really am impressed with the level of administrators and teachers that we have in CUSD. I'm on panels all the time, and I interview administrators and teachers from all over. And our people in San Clemente, South Orange County are first class. Like, they're incredible. So what I would say to them is just come visit, you know, come during the school day, like give me a call. I'll walk you around at lunch. Like, a lot of the fears that I've had parents share with me, once they get involved and they see a school that's thriving, they go, I should have done this earlier. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just about getting there, like getting the parents there to actually watch the everyday. Because we always hear the one or two negatives that maybe 1 or 2% are happening.
Yes.
And we don't think about the 98% of kids and parents and people who are doing all the right things every day, encouraging, supporting, doing their jobs. And it's like, it's amazing. You can have 3,500 people enter that campus and leave, and things were good. It was a great day. It's like, that's a lot of people. It's a village that comes together in a weird time in life, right?
Yes.
Being a teenager.
Yes.
And to have great days, you're just like, wow, 98% of people came here and learned and enjoyed the day. And they live in San Clemente. So
that is
all
a
good.
staggering positive
Totally.
statistic.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is wild. And think about what a great time we had, right? I know my high school experience was amazing. My wife's was amazing. It's where I met my wife, where you met your wife, where you met your wife.
Is that true? All three of us? Huh?
Yep, all three of us.
Something in the water.
Absolutely. But you're right. Yeah. You hear about the negative experiences, and because 1% or 2% had negative experience.
I think we're just attracted to that percent, right? It's like when we drive past an accident on the freeway. Yeah. We want to watch it and look at it. And all day long, that freeway has been humming and not an issue.
Yep,
But
yep,
we don't
yep.
talk about that.
No, exactly. But I go back to why we started this podcast is
Yeah.
we wanted to shine the lights and promote the positive things happening in our community,
Sure.
right? Because there are so many
So much.
great things happening
Yeah.
that do get overlooked
Yeah.
and glassed over every single day. It's like, wait a minute. Why are we not highlighting the amazing things? But you are the epitome. You are the reason why we started this podcast. You are that success story
you.
of the person that has done amazing things. And to think that you're just getting started, right?
I'm humbled by that. And yeah, it's my purpose, and I found it. And I continue. I love to serve. Brian and I are talking about football and the positions we played, and being an offensive lineman, for those who don't know, right? Like, we don't carry the ball. We don't get touchdowns. We don't even get stats, but what we do is we help make other people better. And I think that, doing that for as long as I did, and especially as long as you did, you get that mentality of a servant leadership, right? Like, you're going to work your tail off to help others become better. And that's where you get your gratification. I just learned that over the years. And I know you did too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, like we talked earlier, it's sports. That's really my main background, and it's taught me so much, and it's really has molded the things that I'm passionate about and things that I want to be doing, and kind of setting the example for my kids. That also is a big, you talk about things that shape you and help you make decisions in life. Those kids that's it.
yeah,
Right.
that's it. Yeah.
And if we can preserve some of this, we've got, I joked around, but you got to stick around for my kids when they come through the high school.
I will.
And, but that's what it's all about. San Clemente is unique in that sense that we still have, you're walking your dog and people are honking at you. Congratulations, man.
Awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's truly is a small town in a big, environment.
And I've watched you. I've been inspired. I've met you when you're at high school, right?
Yep.
And I think I can't remember, junior or senior, when I came in to coach.
Yeah.
And, I remember you wanted to play quarterback.
Yeah.
I remember talking to your dad, and we're like, I think we got you to tight end eventually.
Slowly got my hand in the dirt.
Yeah, I slowly got his
Well, he
hand
could
up.
move, right? He had
Super athletic. Yeah.
Well,
But
yes.
watching him grow, and like, I was just so impressed in watching your development and your story. And I think it's a story that needs to be told.
I appreciate
because you
that.
persevered and did things that there's 1.0% of people have ever done. So
Yeah, think about that.
been-
That's
I
wild.
appreciate
I
that.
have not said it on the podcast yet. The best center to have ever played for the New Orleans Saints, Brian De La Puente. Absolutely.
I don't know about that, but-
100% for sure. In my eyes,
There you go.
absolutely. That's all that matters.
Put it on the door.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, that's an unbelievable,
Yeah.
another unlikely story of someone that, that had a ton of success.
and it's something in the water with old linemen, I think, in San Clemente. I mean, we've Harlow, and
Yeah.
we got Kyle
Murphy brothers.
Murphy's, and now my own son, right?
Sure.
Brian's been able to work with him and encourage him, and it's kind of neat. My son's going to Fresno State to play football. He's there right now, and his head coach, Coach Tedford, was Brian's head coach at Cal.
Yeah.
And so the story's still going.
It is.
It's amazing.
That's
it's
unbelievable.
So cool.
And Tedford, there's, in my journeys,
Yeah.
there's a handful of coaches that there's a lot of politics involved, right?
Yeah.
You start like in the NFL, it was draft picks and money allocated to certain people. There was Coach Payton was one of those coaches. Coach Tedford's one of those coaches that I had the fortune of getting to play for. They are honest.
Yeah.
They are loyal.
Yeah.
Their main goal is to put the best product on the field. They don't care how you got there.
Right.
And
That's true.
when people say that, it's one thing, but when they do it,
Yeah.
when Coach Tedford, when I was telling you earlier, when I got rolled up on in training camp, coming off of two broken feet, broke my foot twice, I was done.
Yeah.
And supporting cast, my mom, my parents, Ken's, I was done, dude. Like I was ready to, and then Coach Tedford had his pulse on that, and he brought me into his office and offered me a scholarship.
That's awesome.
And that was one of those pivotal parts of my life and my career and all that good stuff that stands out. And I love him. I just text him randomly, every 6 months, year, just to say, hey, Coach, what's up? Thanks for everything. And I think that talk about relationships and all that stuff. And Coach Tedford's one of the good ones. So Ben's in good hands, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for him. He's got so much in front of him. And he's got such a good support.
Yeah.
We're all cheering for him. And
it's so good. So true too. We all come to this like choice, and then there's someone there. If we're fortunate, if we've worked hard and we built good relationship, there's someone there to say, I believe in you.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, it's amazing. Powerful.
Mentors changed my life.
Yeah.
100% for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you see in Ben, in your son, that you had? Like, do you look at him and see similar qualities? And
God, he's so much better than me.
isn't that? No, I know.
I
my
mean, when
kids
it comes
too, but
to-
how beautiful is that? Like,
yeah.
to think that you know.
Well, he looks like me, but he's blonde. So that's on Amy. But no, he, God, he's so incredible. I'll get emotional talking about it because it's the first week at school, but he's a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
That's what separates him. No one will outwork him, and he's disciplined. You know, he doesn't need other people's, attention for things. He's focused. He's disciplined. He's a hard worker, and he knows what he wants. He's confident. I wasn't that mature at 18.
Right.
Not even close.
Mm-mm.
Like I needed people to encourage me, and he doesn't need it. And I know he's getting it. But I'm just impressed with him. He's got great feet. He's strong. He's going to find his way. But he'll come to a fork in the road too. You got an injury. You have all these things. Like not everything goes the way you think it's going to be planned. My hope is, and I believe it is, when he gets to that fork in the road, like he will have that mentor and that person. And I really love the position coach there. And I really believe Tedford and him are those men.
Yeah.
So I feel good about where he is, and I know he's going to do well. So
Is he a protector like you too, or?
Definitely. Yeah, he's the guy. I mean, he's driven kids home or helped out here, and he's just a great kid. So
he went both ways. He played O-line, D-line.
Yeah.
I remember watching a few of the games when we were out. Brian's like, there's Baker's son right there,
and he's young too, so he's going to continue.
How exciting!
Yeah. So we're thrilled for him, and also my daughter's she's the same thing. She's doing basketball and golf and doing great in schools. And she's like socially, she's got so many friends, and she's got this big personality. I mean, I've just been blessed. It's when you think about it, when you stop and think about where we live, what I do for a living, the kid, my wife, like, I'm just like, thank you. You know what I mean? Just blessed.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I honestly don't know what we did to deserve this life.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I don't, I really don't. Like, we are so lucky. Yeah. We're so blessed. We live a better life just being where we are and surrounded by who we're surrounded by and the culture that we get to live in. It's better than 99.999% of the world.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so the least we can do is try to give back and, help promote the amazing city that we live in.
I've always liked being a helper. You know what I mean? I don't know why exactly. Maybe it's the football stuff, maybe. But I always like, even we go places or I'm like, what can I do to help? I don't know. I think that's I don't know. It fulfills me too.
Simple, but it also,
it's good to be. It feels good to be a helper. So we just need more of them.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Something tells me though, even when you were like a campus supervisor, right? You probably wanted to be the best campus supervisor, right? You didn't care that you were coming on as right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. George Dorte, who was the principal at San Clemente years ago when I was the campus supervisor, he just told me the story like a few days ago. He said I was talking to a parent outside of the admin office, and I guess I was helping them with something and whatever. And the person went inside to meet with the principal, and he told George Dorte, he says, that guy's going to be a principal at San Clemente High School.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I was like, no way. You're making that up. He says, I promise you. He's like, I remember it like clear as day. So I don't know. I don't know who that person was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I think because you didn't have any ulterior motives, right?
No.
So like the good guy won here.
Yeah.
The person that truly deserved the job got it, right? You weren't looking at, that at the time probably thinking, how do I work my way up politically and angle this to get that, but that's what's so awesome.
Yeah, just servant leadership, just serving, right? And that's every step, every job. It's just, how can I help make this better or make something go well? So
selfless.
Yeah.
It's
so
very,
I know Principal Carter did a great job at San Clemente, right? Really foundation. You're walking into a great foundation. Like, what can you tell us about like what is the 5-year plan, the 1-year plan, 2-year plan, 5-year plan?
Yeah. So this coming year, we're going into what's called WASC. So it's an accreditation year. So it's really, and I just came out of it. I just did it at Dana. So right then is making sure that visit goes well and we're represented correctly and we get a good, clear report from the state. But most importantly, my first order of business, and I put it in my letter, is to listen and learn, right? And connect, get to, I already know a lot of teachers. I know a lot of kids. But just to listen and learn and see what's happening, right? And be able to see where our strengths are, listen to where our strengths are. And then, work on some of the things they've already committed to. So I'm very fortunate. They've already committed to restructuring the tutorial system there, where it's more student choice and teacher choice. And then so what's called response to intervention. We did at Dana Hills, and we had tremendous results. And so now being able to help lead that implementation plan at San Clemente High School is going to be a game changer for our kids, because our kids are going to be able to choose what teacher they can go to receive extra time and support.
Will that be like a day one,
Yeah, we have a couple of week implementation plan. So,
Sure.
But yeah, we're going to roll that out really
Cool.
quickly. So that's huge, because not to get into all the education jargon, but we have things called professional learning community, where teachers look at essential standards and skills, and then they work together to share assessments to see if kids are getting it or if they're not. And then the next question is, so what do we do if they're not getting it? Well, having the structured tutorial is another opportunity to reteach in small groups without being able to have a 35-kid classroom.
Sure.
You can teach these 6 kids how to, graphing or an algebra or whatever, right? So whatever's essential to that content area, teachers can have smaller class sizes to intervene before. It's a proactive approach instead of waiting for kids to fail.
Right.
One of my favorite sayings is, if it's predictable, it's preventable.
Mm.
So if we know a student is failing at week 6, right, it's preventable. We can sign them in for extra help, right? We can put in these processes that reteach, the essential concepts and skills that students need to be successful in whatever area they're studying. And,
Right.
yeah.
A lot of times those kids may just need to hear it from someone too. Like, hey, you're
Yeah.
going to be okay, right? We're here to support you. We're going to provide you with a platform that's going to,
Absolutely. And think about, if you have 6 students in a room, 6 to 10, right, compared to 35, how much more attention and how much more relationship building can you have and say, I believe in you. We're going to get this. We just talked about failure, right?
Yeah.
Like, failure is a first attempt in learning, right?
Right.
That's what it is. So we can get the mindset, like, it's okay you failed this assessment, because I'm going to reteach it to you and I'm going to give you another opportunity to do it.
Right.
That is probably the biggest change in education I've seen, is because before, like in my school, when I went to school, it was like, you failed a test, you're done. Like,
Right.
smoked, it gone, like you're moving on, and you might not be able to crawl out of that hole. Now we're like, we're saying, okay, no, if I'm going to assess you on this concept, it is so important. I'm going to have
sure
you
you get
do it. That's going to be my job, is to get you to that finish line. I remember a quick story. Grace went to BAMS, and they have a similar system, and she came home crying because she failed a math CFA, is what they call them. And I tried to explain to her, like, no, it's okay. It's a good thing, because she thought she was bad at math, right? And I explained to her, she still didn't get it, but she went back the next day. They retaught for a couple of days. She went and passed the test, the same one, and she was like, I'm good at math. So that's what we're going to be doing as we move in to San Clemente. They're already doing a lot of that, but we're putting a system to it.
Cool.
Yeah. The first step is you have to believe.
Yeah.
Right. You have to believe that you can do it.
Yeah. If you look at research, there's 3 main, like, for student achievement, there's 3 things, right? There's the students believe they can learn, the teachers believe that the student can learn, and then teacher collaboration. So when teachers share best practices together and decide how to intervene, those are the top 3. If you can do those top 3, students will succeed.
You're right.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
But you got to get buy-in from all the teachers too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Chris has done a great job. Like, San Clemente has been a leader in this work. It actually started there. The professional learning community, 20 years ago, Chuck Kinman, who's superintendent it was in Whittier, I believe, and now he's running for superintendent in the Orange County Department of Ed, I believe. Anyways, he basically brought in the professional learning community process years ago. And so that is a main driver of teacher learning and intervention. So we're just now getting into that next phase where it's the response, right? Like now we know when the kids don't get it and we know when they do. So what do we do exactly? And so they're ready. I mean, that staff is incredible there. I mean, the data is, I look at data. That's opinions are opinions, but data, that tells the real story. And San Clemente has great data. So we're going to continue to build on the wins that we have there, but also continue to pull up the kids that most need as well. And so that's really my goal. Build relationships, listen and learn, and then put in systems that are research-based and strong. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How's the campus? Is the like San Clemente High School, is the campus, is it dated? Is that what I say?
Yes, very much so. I was at Dana and I was 50 years old. San Clemente is over 60.
Wow.
So we are a very old facility. So it's a lot. It actually looks a little better than we went there. There's been some paint and some other stuff and the quad and all that, but the buildings we need to invest into that school.
How do we do that? Are there bonds? Are there?
Yeah, that's really the only way to modernize or rebuild the whole school would be matching bonds. So the state issues bonds and then communities vote on it. If we vote on it and we don't get it, the money that's matching or the money we put in for bonds end up going to other schools. So that's happened, obviously, or other districts, rather.
Yes.
Yeah. But we do have a really cool project coming up. It should be, I think the projected date this is like breaking news for you guys, I think.
Here we go. Hold on.
Here we go. We are working. I've been working with Chris Carter and M&O and on a brand new gym. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, brand new modernized gym. Don't know all the sources of funding just quite yet. I'll get into that and share that with the public as we get closer to it.
Yep.
But the renderings are amazing. It just looks incredible. So we're going to start that process. Of course, it won't be ready probably till 27.
Okay.
Takes time.
Yeah.
We're doing a building at Dana. And I've
yeah.
been working on it 5 years, and now we have framing going up, but this is the beginning of a really cool project. And so I'm excited for that modernization. Cool. That's going to be really neat.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's
it's
huge.
An old gym, I know, but I'm sure we're all going to be nostalgic.
We're talking the like where the basketball
main gym.
Yeah.
The main gym.
So we'll just move everything up top.
No, it's the same footprint, all that.
No, but during like construction.
During construction.
Oh yeah. So we'll have different plans for that. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's logistically it could be challenging, but we
that whole zone in between, like the pool locker room and the gym, be part of a new gym, or is it just the gym?
The whole footprint to the pool.
Cool.
Yeah. So right now the renderings are all the way to like the girls' locker room, all the way to the back entrance to the football field.
See, that's a start, right?
Yeah.
That's a start to modernize,
yeah,
right?
It's huge. And we can do it by piecemeal and it'll take forever, or
yeah.
eventually one day, as a community, we could come together and say, it's time to invest.
Why would the community not vote to approve a bond? The reason I asked this is I was talking to the head of our beaches, parks, and rec about that, because I had someone in our community tour the school and they're like, God, it's so dated, it's so old. That I'm like, really? And
it's retro.
It's that's what I said. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
But again, right?
Well, that's one reason
for sure.
The nostalgia, right? I don't want to see it change. No one likes change,
yes.
right? But the biggest is taxes. And then understanding on how schools are modernized or rebuilt. I think learning about exactly how that works. A lot of people think, well, district has the money, they can just rebuild it, but that's not true. District's budget, 86% of it goes to hiring people. So it's a very small percentage that goes to everything else, and that includes operations, budgets, M&O. So the way schools get redone are by community investment. And so, when the community is ready, I obviously will be able to give tours and share. And, I'm not going to convince someone one way or the other. It's not my job. But it's my job to advocate for a safe school and a safe environment. And our school is that. It's just our kids are sitting in broken down, beat up.
Yeah.
buildings.
I do want to touch on that. Again, the perception is, right, a lot of drugs, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And you brought up something before the podcast where in your 10 years of being a principal, you haven't seen, right, class 1, I think is what you said, like hard drugs. Of course, it's in and around our community, in any community, it's there.
Through the United States,
100% for sure.
Yeah.
But what do you see at San Clemente and in San Clemente High School?
Yeah, no, so the things that right off the bat is like, kids who get a hold of things that they're not supposed to have are going to be able to bring them on, right? We're really fortunate. Like we live in this time of like mass information, quick information. So we have really great notification systems, like see something, say something.
I love that.
Amongst other things, we build really strong relationships with our teachers, and they get educated in the current trends of, whether it's vape or any of those types of things. But like I was telling you earlier, like I've been doing this a long time, and we're not confiscating, these hardcore things, right? But we are, you are seeing the vape pieces and those things, but with the report system and the increase of campus supervisors and the teachers' ability to, notice those kind of things, like we handle them, and then they're not prevalent every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's some things we're gonna change in supervision that I'm gonna work on that we did at Dana that really helped out and all that. I'm not gonna give away exactly all that, but I'm gonna come in pretty heavy on that stuff right off the bat. My daughter goes to school. I want her to be safe. My friends' kids go there, and we're gonna do everything to pull together as a community to learn about these things, like parent nights, educate our parents, educate our kids. We have the Wellness and Prevention Center. I know they just worked with the freshman football team, looking at signs of mental health and all that. So we have so many great organizations and people to come in and help educate our parents and our kids and our staff. And that's what it starts with, right? When you learn about it, you understand it, you can prevent it. And so we're going to start with that, but we're also going to make sure that, we have the appropriate foot traffic and adults and people in places they need to be to ensure safety of all our kids, which they've done a great job there. Chris Carter is probably the best principal I ever see when it comes.
Are you serious? Really?
When it comes to logistics, he's great at a lot of things, but he holds a tight campus. So I'm excited to inherit that and just to build upon it in the skill set with my team. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What are we doing to help promote like technology, right? Like we live in such a different world today, right?
Yeah.
Than what we had an experience growing up. Like you saw earlier, I had to teach Brian how to plug in a camera.
It's broken.
And even then I was surprised that I even knew how to do it. I'm like, Brian, did you see what I did?
Dude.
Tap me.
You're the running back. You get to score.
Yeah.
You get to look good.
But it is, right? These kids are growing up in a totally different
they're not pen to
environment.
paper as a lot of it, right? They have Chromebooks. We have AI is a tool that that was here. And,
it is.
As in education, we need to learn to incorporate it into our everyday, right? Because the kids have it; they have the tool. It's like spell check, right? When that came out, if we ignored it, right, so people are going to still use it. So I've seen some really creative strategies that teachers are able to use AI to, again, develop lessons, have kids, decipher the credible sources and what this isn't, and this is real, this is not, this is original. So there's a lot of positives that we can pull from this, right? Because you can't just say we're not going to do it. And it's not. This education is being disrupted by technology.
You have to evolve.
So you have to evolve in any disruption. There's a good book called Disrupting Class by Clayton Christensen. He's a Harvard professor, but years ago I was able to hear him speak, and I read his book, and he predicted a lot of this stuff based on his own theories of disruption on many other things, TV, radio, all those inventions. But I really think pandemic kind of sped it up, because we all learned to FaceTime, we learned to Zoom. A lot more people got experience with technology, and now we're moving into this AI era. It's just imperative that we learn to use it in a correct way, right? And that's a whole other conversation. But I see it being a positive when we use it correctly. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you experienced, like Chat GPT even?
Sure.
Like, I love it, right? Because I
Sure.
use it as Google, right?
Right.
Instead of like going into Google and searching something,
Yeah.
it's so money.
Oh,
it's amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah, and there's jobs we don't even know yet that we got to get our kids ready to be. Right, I've heard there's already classes called prompt engineering.
Oh, I love it.
And all these things. So, and these kids are amazing coders and all that. And so now they can take that knowledge and build it into prompting. They can code faster, so the products are going to be better.
Yeah.
So it's wild, the speed of how this is coming out. It's just going to be a big responsibility for us in education to harness it in the right way, right? And that's hard sometimes, but this is all companies. I mean,
Sure.
every company that I've seen, they're all learning like, hey, you change or die, right? So it's like, figure it out. And so, I'm going to go into it with a positive mind frame and say, hey, if kids are able to use this, so let's change the way we assess, right? Let's, tell me about this, or show me in a different way, or do a project that's a collaborative based, and let's do more standards based grading, right? The days of like go home and write a report on, World War II, might be less. You have to think a little differently.
Sure.
So, but that's what intelligence is, right? It's flexibility, right? And
100%.
adaptability. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want me to keep going?
No, we're kind of getting close. Those are big
These are
topics.
huge topics.
Brad, just kind of wrapping it up.
Well, hold on. Let's not have a few.
We're close.
I'm like, I got more questions. I want to know leadership. What do you look for, or like what has made you such a great leader? Like what qualities?
I appreciate you saying that. I keep going back to that servant leadership. If you read about it and learn about it, selflessness. In my world in education, and I think in business, there's two thoughts, right? There's manager and there's leader, right? I think a manager is this top down, do as I say, kind of on the podium with the whip, making people to do things. I think a leader says, let's go. I'm with you. We're arm to arm. I'm going to model. I'm going to support you. I'm going to protect you. We're going to do you have the vision. So I look for people like that. I look for people who have drive, selfless drive, probably be a good way to put it. People who want to help and serve, I think that's it. I mean, and people are good with being vulnerable. Obviously I'm being pretty vulnerable today, but I've learned, I was telling you about it. I didn't even want to tell my story years ago because I thought people are going to think I'm not a good educator because I struggled at some point. And for me, I think it all starts, we need to know who our leaders are. And if our leaders are vulnerable, but have overcome, that shows character. And that makes me want to relate to them. The people I like to follow are people I know who have, who are personable, authentic, and have a purpose, right? And I get drawn to that, so when I interview people, I listen for all the know-hows and all that, but for the main thing, I want to know if they have a purpose, if they know their drive, they know their why.
Yep.
Because I think you know your why, and you're able to share that, then others feel confident enough to share theirs, because we all have a story.
Sure.
We do. We all have overcome. Some of us are just not ready to share those stories. But if our leaders can do that, and I believe others can do the same and become strong leaders and inspire, and you just don't know who you're ever going to inspire by sharing something that you've accomplished or overcome or whatever. I mean, it's pretty powerful.
I remember an early mentor of mine told me, Jeff, people are going to do business with you because they like you, and they're going to continue to want to do business with you if you do a good job for them.
Absolutely.
Right? And same thing in your line of work. People are going to want to support you as the principal because they like you, and they're going to want to continue to support you because you're going to do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked earlier about trust.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work I've done, it's how do you gain trust, right? And trust takes, I forget, I've read something, it was like 47 positive interactions in a row. That's a lot, right? Just to build one little strand of trust.
And then to lose it, right?
And to lose it, it only takes one. So when you have an intentional plan to build authentic trust with those who you serve, they will do more than what's expected. And when people do more than what's expected, they make an impact in the community, right? And I think that's the whole purpose of what we do in education is like, let's inspire, let's not predict, let's project positive intentions and futures for our kids.
Yep. I can assure you no one wants to do more positive things for the community than this big fella right here. Honestly.
Right. Well, no, Brad, your vulnerability and you have that ability to articulate that. It's inspiring to me. I think I'm excited for San Clemente. I'm excited for my kids to go there. I'm excited for just the landscape. It's exciting to me to know that you're one of those leaders kind of spreading that positivity, being vulnerable, because it is inspiring. So I appreciate you. I know Jeff and I, this is part of getting to know Brad, right?
Yep, sure.
Get to hang out and learn a little bit about your story and where you came from. And hopefully all the high school kids will listen and kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
You know, maybe someone that might not have come up to you to talk to you about something will. So
I appreciate that. It means a lot. I mean, this is so real for me because I sat in that room. I've had those experiences. I've overcame them, so I can help. You know, that's the thing we kept talking about is like, our job is to keep our kids in the game as long as possible. So when they're ready, you know, I use this popcorn analogy. It's like, you know, the kernels don't all pop at once, right? They all pop at different times, but we got to keep the same heat on for as long as possible because eventually one day that kid's going to find it, right? And we might not find it right away, but it's our job as a school to find authentic success somewhere during the school day for every kid.
Sure.
That's the bottom line. I think that's the job of education.
Gosh, that's incredible. Yeah. The city of San Clemente doesn't even know how lucky that they are that they're about to have you as the principal. We know that because we're firsthand and, you know, and we're excited to help promote that. And if you're, you know, considering, you know, sending your kids to San Clemente High School, I can assure you that you now have the leader at the helm that will absolutely build and continue the legacy of what the prior principal did as well.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And everyone on that campus. I mean, it's a great school. And you know, please contact me. Like if you ever want a tour, come, I got a great team and happy to tour people around. I know the campus pretty well.
Yeah.
I was a student, supervisor. Like I'm like, oh, the corner in the little theater with that little plug that does this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just the facility is like burnt into my brain. Yes. So I know it very well, but I would love to show it off. And more importantly, show off the good work that's happening there and, you know, invite kids to come there, have a good time. I'm looking forward to interacting with the kids too. You know, I told my daughter I wouldn't embarrass her, so I have to be can't be too
kind of on the DL.
Yeah. But I like to get myself right into the groups and learn about the kids. You know, the current seniors were my sixth graders at Shorecliff, so I'm really excited
to see that growth.
To go in there and see them. So see how much. I mean, they're driving cars now. I'm like, you were in sixth grade, now you're driving a car. It's kind of scary. So I'm looking forward to getting to really get to know the kids and. Because we were those kids.
Yeah, we were not long ago, right?
Well,
it doesn't feel like too long ago,
no,
right? Like time flies. It's wild.
It's wild.
Where can people follow like any updates or anything that's happening? Is there an Instagram page that San Clemente has?
Well, San Clemente does. They have We Are Tritons is one. But I just started.
Okay.
The SC Triton principal.
Awesome.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So I started that. And so, you know, I'm big on making sure sharing information. Communication is a huge thing. I have a pretty easy acronym that I lead by. I call it's CTVF, and C is communication, and that's my number one. How to communicate not only to the parents what's going on, but you know the great things that are happening. Going back to the positives, telling that story, and when you tell the story that matches the student experience. Parents have told me for years, like, thank you for posting that. Like, I didn't know that took place. Because when kids get in the car after school or you see them in there, how'd school go?
Fine.
Right?
Yeah.
So I like being able to communicate all all the positive things and the great things that are happening. The other thing is transparency. I'm huge on that, especially with my staff and community and my PTA, about what's going on. So we're going to be very open on that. We're going to be hard on issues and not people, and then visibility. That's the V, and it is being extremely visible. I stand out front of Dana every morning, welcome everyone. It's an important thing for me to show you, like, I'm here to work with everyone and do it. And I could do that most days. Obviously, there's meetings and district things, but I prioritize that, which I'll bring to San Clemente. And the last thing is follow through. It's just following through, I think when someone says something, they're going to do something. Following through is imperative, because if you don't, then you lose integrity, and it shows your character that you're just kind of. It's
like Hamro giving you the first job.
That's follow through. Yeah. I'll tell you what, that's big time. So, I can't believe it. I was like, really? This is happening? So, anyways, that's really, how I sum things up and how I'll walk into it. But focus on learning, listening, relationships.
Yep. CTVF.
Yep.
CTVF.
I added the F.
That's a good one, though.
I was like, but I always.
CTVF. Yep.
I've done multiple leadership jobs, and I'm also an adjunct professor at Concordia, and now with Orange County Department of Ed, and I've done some writing and some other stuff. And when I meld everything I've learned and all my experience over the last 21 years, those are the four things I constantly come back to outside of relationships. Right, relationships are the umbrella, but communication, transparency, visibility, right?
Yep.
Follow through. Those are just essential to servant leadership.
Yep. I think it's amazing that you still get to teach, right? Like I always think, like, as a principal, or like we were talking about Doug Patterson, our good buddy that's the head of school, he often says, like, he misses being in the classroom.
Yeah.
Right. So you still get to kind of fulfill that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's great, because you realize, like, it's not easy. It's hard being a teacher.
Gosh.
Right? It really is. And so a lot of times, people, when you go into administration, you're not doing the grading or the support, right? You're out of the classroom, and you forget about the best practices and strategies. But when you put yourself back into that position, as I've done, it really gives me some empathy, some understanding, not to the level, but to a certain point. I'm working with adults, different than teenagers, all those things. But at the same time, it makes you appreciate what our teachers do, because they're incredible. I mean, they're superheroes.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
100%. They change lives.
Yep, they do.
They change lives, and they change mine. And
Yep.
and that's something I'm super proud of being a part of. So
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Brad Baker, incoming 2025, will it be 2024, 2025?
Yeah, 24, 25.
24, 25. New principal of San Clemente High School. Brad, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
Brad.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for listening in. Join us for another episode next week, coming to you from our studio on Del Mar in downtown San Clemente. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at the San Clemente Podcast, and subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode.